I'd like to call a meeting of, this is the wrong date, Tuesday, October 15th, 2024 to order. Acting under the provisions of the Code of the Town of Barnstable, Chapter 112.1 through 112.7, the Historical Commission will hold a public hearing on the following applications. The following applications have been determined significant and were referred to a public hearing. This meeting of the Historical Commission is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, I must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, please make their presence known. Seeing no one sticking their hands up, that's great. We ask that during the afternoon's proceedings, cell phones be turned off and conversations other than those before the commission take place outside this room, please. When an application is called, please come to the table and sign in here on the sign-in sheet. All interested parties and abutters should also come forward at that time, and all people who wish to speak regarding an application must also sign in. First order of business is to take a roll call attendance. Cheryl Powell. Here. Nancy Shoemaker.
Here.
Jack Kay.
Here.
Barbara DiBiase.
I am here.
John Richmond.
Here.
Bob Frazee. I'm here too. Look at that. All righty. We will move right on to our first hearing. As I said, we're a little bit not pressed for time, but I don't want to waste any if we can help it. And so we have this in the wrong order. A continued application, Robert and Denise Quirk, trustees, 64 Vine Avenue, Centerville, map 226, parcel 037, built 1930, full demolition, demolished the existing structure. And thank you again for your patience, and I'm sorry we weren't up and running for you last
It was
time.
in August.
I thought it was, I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure.
Jack Hay has recused himself from this item, so Jack, if you don't mind just leaving the room.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry
you.
to give the bums rush to you so quick, but we'll see you back soon. All righty. I would love to have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second, anyone? Moved and seconded, all in favor of doing so?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Any opposed? Excellent. Presentation by the applicant, if you have anything further you would like to share with us.
So we had the site visit a month ago or so. So I hope you had an idea what, you know, about the conditions of the property, and I hope you got to see how, you know, that there is really no much we can do with the house to make it year-round and bring it up to 21st century without having a decent foundation, and it's really structurally unsound. So, and other than that, everything stays the way it is on these drawings, on these elevations. And I know there was a question that I answered not correctly last time, and that was a difference between the height of the existing roof ridge and proposed, and it's gonna be 6 feet at least on these drawings. I mean, what we're proposing. So other than that, I think I explained things when we were on the site, and I'm open to any kind of questions.
Well, thank you. That's great. Commissioners, do you have any thoughts or questions that you want to share, either from the site visit or just in general?
I'd like to actually hear from some of the people who did go on the site visit, what their impressions were.
Sure.
I was one of them. I would say it, you know, had my concerns before, but seeing the condition of the house and the height of the house, and particularly that even with raising it up, it's still lower than the house behind it, I sort of changed my mind and thought they're being very responsible about using same materials. Of course, never the same as the wood that we had 100 years ago, but yeah, I was impressed with their plan in the long run.
Barbara, were you able to do a site visit?
I was not.
John, were you there at all? I don't
I
recall.
wasn't there for the site visit. I have
Okay.
walked the neighborhood.
Yeah, okay. I was there for the site visit, and I had pretty much the same reactions that Nancy had. I'm always a little reluctant when there's a whole demolition in front of us and it's a historic building. I think instinctively that's kind of where we're supposed to be with these things. But I feel the same that for modern living, it would be challenging to, and your engineer spoke well eloquently to that at the first hearing, it would be very difficult to re-engineer the existing building to accomplish some of the goals that year-round residents in the 21st century would want to have there. And anyway, that's just kind of my feeling. I also think it's really helpful to go and see buildings, whether it's for a formal site visit as we had, and thank you very much for accommodating that, all of you, or just the drive-by that we all try to do whenever a building's coming up for consideration here. And you get a sense for the context and the scale of the neighborhood and the other structures and hills and valleys and the twists and turns of streets, and it just puts the whole question of the building's place in the community into a clearer context. And my sense was that the building proposed is not out of character with the neighborhood, which I think is really important. And so I guess that's what I mean when I say I think it's similar to Nancy's reaction. Does that help you, Cheryl? I'm not sure, but if that's specific enough, but,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay,
I didn't have that concern with it,
okay.
but it's good to hear the responses of the people.
I would hope if there's anything you can use from the existing building, you might. And as much as possible, mimic that building. We really
Yeah.
would appreciate it, and I think the neighborhood would appreciate it.
Sure.
There's a house across the street that doesn't look like it did that, and
Right.
I can see people's concerns. You know.
Yeah, every neighborhood's a little bit of a mixed bag with that kind of thing. You can pick out the houses that have made the effort and
Right.
others that
Yeah.
pretty much haven't. And, for the sake of the community, it's always better if they can. Is there anybody from the public here? Do you folks, I know it's your property, is there anything you want to be able to say? I mean, if you need to come down and sign in to talk, but,
Please do.
I mean, feel free to.
Okay.
Okay.
Sign in to me too, good, thank you.
Okay. Robert Quirk. Oh, I speak, okay. No, we're trying to just make it livable and put it into the context of the village. We were there for a long time, and we'll make our best effort to do that and keep in line with everything. We've been there so long, we're kind of used to it. What follows, what didn't, what doesn't, so we'd appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we're actually going to retire this, so I'd like to do it as, get going, because...
Full-time's very different
The years
than
are passing.
summer residencies in many cases. I
Yes.
think we all understand that.
Right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Did you sign in?
Yes.
Okay, good.
All righty. If that's it, I would accept a motion to close the public hearing.
I will make that motion.
In a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. Commissioners, any further thoughts before we go to a vote on this, do you think?
I just want to thank the applicant for, taking the time for the site visit.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
They actually went there.
Yeah, and I think we all appreciate that very much. It's not an easy thing to do, to press the pause button and go after that. All right, then. Could I ask for a volunteer to read the motion? You have it. Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, so with regard to Quirk, Robert and Denise, PRS or Trust, 64 Vine Street, Centerville, map 326, parcel 037, built in 1930. Oh, yeah, thanks. So I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application and associated materials, the significant building, 64 Vine Avenue in Centerville, is a preferably preserved significant building.
I'll second that.
All right. An aye vote will impose an 18-month delay. A nay vote will not impose an 18-month delay. And for the roll call, Nancy?
Nay.
Thank you. Cheryl?
Nay?
Barbara?
Nay.
Robert? Nay. And that's,
Oh, John?
well, Is John voting on this?
He can.
Yeah, and you can. You're welcome to.
Yes, he did Mullen in for this item.
Yep, oh, that's right. You've been mullened, which is cool.
Okay, so anyway, nay.
Thank you. All right. So clearly, the nays have it. It's unanimous.
right,
And next motion?
I move that in accordance with Section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historical Commission determines that the full demolition of the building located at 64 Vine Avenue, Centerville, is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
I'll second that.
Thank you. An aye vote determines that the full demolition of the single-family structure is not detrimental and no demolition delay would be imposed. So, Nancy,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Robert, aye. John,
Aye.
very good. We're all squared away.
Thank you
And
very
I'm
much.
happy to say on this occasion, there were no abstentions, and I didn't miscount anything, and we're great. I know you were here for that, so
And again, it helps so much to
thank
have
you
a
guys
site
very
visit.
much. Thank you all.
Yeah.
And thank you for your patience during the delay.
Oh, happy to do it.
And we should ask Jack to come back in. If he's,
Thank you.
I'll grab him.
oh, thank you, Corey.
Okay.
And I want to explain that initially, when the next two applications came before me as chairman for an initial determination as to whether they would be required to have public hearings, I felt that I either knew the buildings well enough, or the owners well enough, or the former owners well enough to think that I should recuse myself, at least from being the only arbiter of whether or not they would be determined significant enough for a hearing. And I believe that was the correct process, and I want to thank Nancy Shoemaker for stepping in as vice chair and doing that on my behalf. I have determined that I really feel quite comfortable that I do not know the people well enough to be compromised in my ability to participate in the deliberations, particularly in the context of the whole commission. And so I'm going to sit in on both of these, just in case there was any, thought that it might be otherwise, because initially I wasn't sure. So the next application is Robert Pemberton, 125 Parker Road, Osterville, map 116, parcel 028, built 1750, full demolition, demolish the existing dwelling. Hi, there you go. Sign in and tell us your story, sir. Or, excuse me, I guess I should open a public hearing. Could I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. You're on.
Thank you all for your time today. Appreciate it.
Do you mind just moving the microphone
Oh, yeah,
over so that we can capture?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. What you're looking at here is the front facade of 125 Parker Road. It has been, the original part of the structure was built in 1750, so that part of it's centuries old. It was expanded once in the 20s, and then expanded subsequently with another addition in the 50s with a garage, not attached, a detached garage. What you're looking at right there is interesting in itself. This is the sort of hearth in the ancient part of the home. And you'll see the curved nature of the floor and the ceiling. As you can see up in the doorway in the upper right, the whole sill of the wall has settled down 2 or 3 inches compared to level. And this is the case throughout this structure. That's due to the foundation failing, and the remedies for that are pretty drastic. The building has to be lifted, and there's the case of whether it would survive lifting at all, and having a foundation put in there. If you scroll down a little bit, there's other sections. It's pictures of the bathroom off the living room, which is fine. It's not terribly important at the moment, but if you keep going, you'll see that this picture is really black mold that is present throughout the structure. To remediate this is going to be quite difficult. Again, you'll see the black mold here and the sagging of the structure. This is the opposite side of that large chimney that you saw. And you'll see here, there's more of the kind of context, the interior context of the building and how, it was built for a different time. Again, the sagging and the doors, and this is the other, if you're looking through that photo, that's the living room of the old side of the structure, the 1750 side of the structure. We're at the end here, beginning. Okay, here, you're going to see some of all the windows have been replaced with, I believe it's a Harvey window. This is a vinyl replacement window system. You can see, if you look down at the foundation, you can see that it's cracked in numerous places and settled and things of that nature. Yeah. It's attempt at repairing and stabilizing it for the moment. Keep going. Here you see the sill is failed, and they've gone through and removed 2 courses of shingles and reshingled it, but not really repaired the failed sill that's sitting on top of the failed foundation. So we keep going down here, I think. We get some more context, not terribly meaningful there.
Is all that wiring live?
Most of that is Xfinity/cable work, and rather than drill through the walls, it's actually, there's a number of outlets. The one underneath the window in the center is actually looped 110 wiring. So that's a large part of the engineering that has been done in this house. So here's the backside. Again, they're running the cable around, and the wiring out to the shed is just pulled out with 110 into the ground and into the shed. It's kind of interesting. Did I give you a picture of the back? So, a bit about me. I've lived here all my life. I bought this house with the intent of looking at it in a number of different possible strategies, and one of them was a renovation. And I've lived in the house since last October, bought the house last October, and lived in it to try to figure out kind of, is it going to be a livable structure, and is it going to be economical to save? Because if you do look at, there's some charming things about the property, but to actually kind of get it to stop sinking into the ground is going to be quite a chore, and I don't think the end result would be. I think that from your perspective, I think utilizing parts of the house to kind of preserve that history, as opposed to kind of trying to do a full-on renovation, would end up being a more, I think would achieve your goals more than doing a partial doing a renovation and trying to get it up to some sort of livable standard, because it's really, I think, beyond that point at this stage. Do any of you have any questions for me? Commissioner?
That chimney fireplace, is there any chance you could save the wood from that? And
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a all that wood
Something
in
you
there.
will
We would
take off
definitely
and
take
put
that
back
and
on.
utilize those doors and
Yeah, good.
in a
Okay.
way that's.
Yeah, that's nice to hear, because some of those are the more character-defining features of the building. Everybody knows from the exterior, it doesn't read as 1750 particularly. It's
Right.
probably surprising to a lot of people to know
Yeah.
to be that age.
Yeah.
When you're inside, it's less surprising because of that and some of the door hardware and some other features. You've got covered corner posts, but you can't do much with that. But it just reads that it's that type of building. I don't know if you want to try and put some pretend corner posts in when you do it, but that's interior, and that's not our purview. It's just a hope to try and save something if the building is being demolished and keep something of what the history has to carry on into the future with.
Right, and that would be the goal with it, is to just sort of,
Oh, there's the back, yeah.
yes, exact, this, just a, not that it's really a huge issue, but the grade is all graded into the house. So all the water runs into the basement from the backyard here. That all of that needs to be changed as well. But it's a charming location. It just needs a property on it that's livable and kind of in character with the neighborhood, so.
Do you know offhand what the perimeter dimensions were of the original house? It wasn't very big.
I think it's from the chimney over.
Yeah, that's
This-
what I
this-
was going to guess.
The 1920s structure is behind the chimney.
Yep.
And the 1950s structure is to the left
That
of
makes sense.
that. So,
Yeah.
and
Commissioners, any other questions or thoughts?
You know, I looked at this property on Zillow, and it's probably not surprising that on Zillow it looked way better.
But they do. They're good at it, too. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing the interior photos as they are. I mean, black mold and all, and I get that, but,
Yep.
you know, that's refreshing to see as some of the character of the house is still part of it. I don't think, do we have any members of the public here to speak to this? I don't think we did. Do we have any communications from the public?
No. No public comment.
Well, any thoughts? Yeah, as I said earlier, I'm personally familiar with the building. Nothing about this surprises me, to be
Right.
candid. And I didn't think it would, which is, you know, why I thought, well, you know, I can totally think about this objectively. The idea of a full renovation of something that size in an effort to make a livable dwelling of it in the 21st century, and it's a busy location, too. It's not just a good location, but there's a lot going on there. I don't think you'd get a fighting chance trying to do it from scratch and lifting the building, and I don't know what shape it's in, but probably a little dicey.
yes.
So I wouldn't expect heroics to be appropriate here. That's my personal opinion.
Are you planning something pretty, not exactly similar, that section off to the left, you're probably not going to
No,
replicate
it'll
that?
be similar in scope. It's not, you know, there's,
Not a three-story building?
no. It would be similar in character, but,
It's not like the renovation of the Spruce Street Lodge next door was 30 years ago, huh?
no.
Thank you. I know you know what I mean. So
I know, exactly.
that was
Yeah.
kind of an eye-popping change for all of the neighborhood, and I think that would be a little more drama than most people would want to cope with. All right. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing then? In a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Make a motion?
Yes, please. Thank you very much, Cheryl.
All right, so with regard to Pemberton, Robert, 125, oh, from you, sorry. 125 Parker Road, Osterville, map 116, parcel 028, built 1750, with regard to a full demolition to demolish the existing dwelling. I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application, associated materials, this significant building at 125 Parker Road, Osterville, is a preferably preserved significant building.
An aye vote will impose an 18-month demolition delay. A nay vote will not impose an 18-month delay. So, Nancy.
Nay.
Point of order. I need a second on that motion,
Oh, I
please.
beg your pardon. Thank you very much.
second.
Thank you.
Now you can roll call.
Got it. Good catch. I appreciate it. Let's keep it right. Nancy, again.
Nay.
Thank you. Cheryl?
Nay.
Barbara?
Nay.
Jack?
Hey,
And Robert? Nay. John?
do you need me to vote on this?
If you don't wish to, you don't need to.
I'd rather not.
That's fine. That's perfectly okay. So, moving on to the next motion, and Cheryl.
Did anyone else, did everybody vote?
Everybody voted except
But-
John.
But we have 8. So I think we needed at least 4, but I think our actual thing would be 7. Isn't that point of order, Erica? So only 7 can vote?
So
if you have 7 full
If we have
members?
7 full members, we only have 6 at the moment with John, who is our alternate. So we only have 5 full members. So John can vote.
Okay,
He's chosen
just
to
wanted to make sure.
abstain from the vote. So
Okay, just wanted to make sure it's a point of order.
No, no.
Okay, so nay carries it. Okay, I move that in accordance with Section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historical Commission determines that the full demolition of the building located at 125 Parker Road, Osterville, is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. An aye vote determines that the full demolition of the single-family structure is not detrimental. No demolition delay will be imposed. Nancy?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
And I vote aye. And John, do you wish to stand away again? Okay, that's fine. Great. Well, that does it.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate the
And good luck.
presentation, and
Save,
Thank
save
you
what
for
you
coming in.
can, that hearth is beautiful.
There's neat spots to it.
all righty. Next hearing, Stephen and Gretchen Bates, 102 Bridge Street, Osterville, map 116, parcel 001, built 1920, partial demolition, demolish dwelling except for garage and mudroom. And could I have a motion to open the public hearing, please? Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor of opening a public hearing, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing is open. Sir, you're on. Hi.
My name is James Bowes. I work with Bayside Building Company. I'm representing Gretchen and Stephen Bates. So, I don't know, have you got any of these pictures? Yeah, so the original house, well, first of all, the garage that's in the far right corner is staying, but the original garage was kind of like a mansard roof, so it looks like that came down, and I can't tell from the different photos from Google when they rebuilt the garage, but we're keeping the garage. That one, you can see that it's like a 4-sided mansard or hip roof, which it is not anymore. The house, when you look at this picture, only the center section. All right, so
There you go.
you mind if I stand up? Well,
Yeah,
where it says
It's going to be
original.
hard for people to
Yeah,
hear
right.
you on the
Where it says
recording.
original, that's the original building. And to the right, that little bow window addition, I put a red line on, that was there but smaller. And then to the left, that entire gable was not there, but there was a little kind of like, I don't know, like a 10 by 12 type of shed that went off to the left with the same roof lines as the original. So the new section to the left is actually bigger than the house, and it's newer. And so the middle section, it's hard to tell what was there and what wasn't. When you're in the building, there's, it steps down, and it's like to the left of the original, in that crotch where the roof is, where it says new, that was extended over. And then when you look at the back, and you go to the next folder,
Would it help you if I got up and pointed to the things you want?
all right, that whole left side is all new. That's not part of the thing. I think there's one more picture from the back, I hope, anyways. Right, so this kind of shows you where it's hard to determine what was really the original center section, because everything to the right, where it says new 1980s, was added. And then they also added a full dormer, so there could be bedrooms on the second floor to the left section. And then those 2 bump outs that I have X's, they weren't there either. And then way over to the far left, you can see where it used to be, a small room like the one on the front. And they just kind of jury-rigged added on over the years in multiple different ways. And the bottom picture shows the garage that's going to stay in the very far back. So in my business, when we're doing this, very, very, very rarely do we take something down and build something smaller than what's there. But this is what they're doing here, so which I think is kind of nice. And they're building, they're disconnecting from the garage, And, relative plans. So there, I drew this section in to show you what was originally there. This is the new addition. That's the original part, and a little bit of this. And then they added all that other stuff, and we're keeping that. And now, I think I have elevations of what we're doing, if you
You
care.
mentioned the mudroom. Where was that in that picture?
Mudroom?
Is it on the garage?
Well, so when you come into the house now, you kind of come in right in that little space by the garage where it says keeping. And you go left into kind of a mudroom kitchen, well, kind of a conglomeration of rooms. And you step up into the kitchen above where it says the original build. But we're disconnecting all of that, and we're taking the new building and pushing it over so that it's more or less in line with the left side of this one, and we're leaving a gap between the house and the garage. This is new today, but it might help a little bit. So this is what we're keeping. And right now, there's building here, and then over here is the big gable that is no longer going to be there. So, and yeah, there you go, that. Right, stop, go back to the first floor. So, the primary bedroom in this, in part of the living room, in the front and back porches, are where the gable is that we're removing. In the middle of the house, the original house kind of goes from where the couches are in the living room over to the kitchen, and then the building keeps going until it touches the garage. So once we take it all down, we're building really, I think it's a 2,200 square foot cape with a porch in the front and a porch on the back. And in the backyard is, very tight. There's hedges that are probably 20, 25 feet high, and they separate this lot from the boat parking lot behind it. So in the wintertime, when they pull all the boats out, all the boats stay in this parking lot right behind them. So their screening is, 20-foot hedges.
They want to insure those hedges.
Yeah, we're going to keep those. We're going to keep those. And so, coupled with this house is also in the conservation floodplain FEMA guidelines, so we have to raise it. And so we're trying to do it, so it doesn't look like what the hell happened. And so that picture shows, the existing grades that are there, and the original architect had it up, and you were walking up, 10 steps to the front porch. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna raise the house up like that, and then we're gonna bring fill in, so that there's a circular driveway in the front, so that the garage driveway is at elevation 6. And we're gonna make the circular driveway at about 9.5. And we're gonna make the front wall 30 inches high. So this lawn here is at 11.5, and then the porch is only gonna be 14. So instead of having a 6-foot high porch, it's gonna be 30 inches high. So you drive up a circular driveway, you go through a 30-inch wall, through a small walkway, and up, 4 more steps to the front porch, and it looks like it's always been there. And then between the house and the garage, there's a wall that's currently there. We're gonna keep that and make it 3 feet tall. And the idea is to get the new grade to be at about where that blue line is, and have it fade down to a 3-foot wall. Again, there's some steps to go through. And we're actually gonna take the left side of when we disconnect the house, we're gonna take the left side of the garage apart and build a cinder block wall up that's 3.5 feet high, so that we can bring the fill into the half of that. So everything kind of looks connected, and the new door going into the garage, which you see here, is actually, 5 steps up the interior staircase
You
to a
want-
platform.
Hold it up so that everyone here can see that.
So,
can't see that.
you know, so this lawn, instead of going down to 6, it's going down to 9.5. And then you walk in that door, the stairs inside the garage are gonna go up 5 treads to a platform, and you're gonna open up the door, and you're gonna be halfway up the stairs at that
So
platform.
the garage also will meet the requirements once you're finished in terms of the,
Well,
do you
yeah,
call
well,
it,
the garage doesn't have to meet it,
oh,
but the
okay.
space above it does.
I
So the
guess
space
that's what I
above it's
meant.
already there, so, you know, we're redoing everything up to code on that, but when we're all done, the only place that would look kind of strange is the backyard, which you can't see because of the 20-foot hedgerow. So let me see if I got a picture of that. Oh, yeah, right here. So again, it's kind of hard to see the wall break, but they, you know, if my hand is the hedges, they go across like this, and we're going to build a 5.5-foot stone wall and contain a very small, like, you know, cooling off pool, a 10 by 20 pool. And you'll be able to come from the garage and walk down 5 or 6 steps to the existing grade of 6. And there's a little opening through the hedges that they can go to their boat. And over here, there's hedges too. So the house on both sides, where I can't really make it look natural, are hidden by 20-foot hedges. So the front, I think when we're done, it's going to look as good and as natural as we can make it, based on taking a house down and building a new one and raising it 5.5 feet. You know.
Well, that's really helpful. I want to explain to the other commissioners and to you, one of the reasons I let you go on through that, technically, we don't have much jurisdiction over what you do next if we approve a full demolition.
Yeah.
But this is the first time that we as a commission have had somebody bring a property to us that I'm aware of, where the demolition and the reconstruction is all about new floodplain levels and rising sea level, and we're going to see more of this.
Yeah, you know.
We know we are. The Cape Cod Commission has been promulgating suggested ways for commissions to handle the subject, which I've looked at and closed the book on really quickly and gone to pour myself a stiff drink because it's challenging. It's tough.
It is
We're going to
challenging.
lose some structures, and we're going to have some that are going to be drastically altered. And we all know what just happened in Florida in the last few weeks, and it's just a tough example. We're not there yet, I hope, but, you know, this is part of a whole broad project of taking a house that will not survive a flood of that type. It is in the floodplain, and producing something that will, and this is what that's going to look like also.
And we've done some projects, I think you might have, when we were doing
Centerville?
on Long Beach Road.
Yeah,
But
right.
the first one we did on Long Beach Road was halfway down on the right. And you
Okay.
kind of took a right down a 4-house, you know, private road. But, you know, we had no room to mitigate the height. And we had to go from elevation 2.89 to 13.5 to the first floor.
Wow.
And we had 15 feet to do it in. And, you know, from the front door. So we built these walls, we kind of hid the stairs that kind of came in behind the walls up to the next level. And then you walked up a kind of a flight like that into the house. But the front of the house, we brought all the way down to the street. And again, in the backyard there, they had huge hedges, but if they didn't, it's really, it's hard to make it look good. And, you know, so you're gonna run into that. And the other thing with FEMA is they keep going up, you know, so, you know, 5, 6 years ago, it was 10 or 11. Now it's 12, 13, or 13, 14. And you say, well, what do you mean 13, 14? Well, the design's 13. I mean, the floodplain's 13, but they say the design's 14. And like on Long Beach Road, on the left side, it's 15, 16.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you've got a house 12 feet above where it is now. And so, you know, it's not going to be easy.
The
But
Florida-
This one is one of the few that, we're replacing it with a smaller home, and we're softening it with porches both front and back, and we can do it with, you know, nice walls and let
Well,
the
and
grass-
raising the landscape
Yeah, we
elevations
can
Not
and
as
contours
visible
and stuff.
from the road.
Right.
That one was very,
Yeah.
very, very.
I feel pretty confident that, you know, give us a year and you'll go by and kind of not even know that something happened there. And that's, I think, what you guys want.
The Tampa Bay context is important. There's a community just north of Tampa Bay, it begins with a P, and I can't think of it right now, north of Tampa, that has been subject of number of rescues in the last week, and glaringly, the houses built in the last year and a half are fine. Absolutely fine. They're untouched. They were built on raised land, which was raised artificially. The ones that have been there for 30 years are flooded up to the eyeballs and severely damaged, and people being evacuated. So, that's the context of this. Unfortunately, we're going to see more of it. The only other thing I want to say quickly as chairman is that when we're looking at a building that technically qualifies for our review by age at least, we have to look at the relative historical and architectural significance of the structure and that sort of thing, and that's something for the commissioners to think about and talk about. But were it a very significant building, one of the things you would be hearing from us is, so what are the alternatives to demolition? Could you raise it? And yes, in some circumstances, that will be an alternative, and it's one of the alternatives that's proposed by the Cape Cod Commission for certain structures to keep them on site, but to keep them safe from a rising sea level. And I'm not suggesting that my opinion would be that that needs to happen here, but it is one of the things that we'll need to look at from time to time when we're confronted with this question and have perhaps a different building than this one, but I want to use it as the example. Commissioners, other thoughts that you have about this?
I'm actually confused about the elevation. Are those stilts that are covered?
Are those what?
Are those stilts?
Well, on the front of the house there,
Yes.
I wasn't involved in this one, but it was a different architect, but, this white line here is the skirt board across the front of the deck, and this would be an open deck underneath that they
Okay.
hid with lattice.
Okay.
And so in our version, we want to bring the grade up to here, and instead of doing lattice, we'll do vertical staving.
Okay.
And we'll probably over here match that vertical staving, so it looks like part of the deck going over there, and the lawn will roll up. And I'll have a driveway at about here, and a stone wall about here that's 12 feet off the front of it, and you kind of just meander your way up to that grade. And as you're driving by, it's just going to look natural.
I see. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions or thoughts? Could we have a motion to close the public hearing? Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. And we should go to a vote. Cheryl, are you still
Yep.
game?
Yeah, I'm still game.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. With regard to Bates, Stephen and Gretchen, 102 Bridge Street, Osterville, map 116, parcel 001, built 1920. This is with regard to a partial demolition to demolish the dwelling except for the garage and mudroom. I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the applications and associated materials, the significant building at 102 Bridge Street, Osterville is a preferably preserved significant building.
Second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Nancy. An aye vote will impose an 18-month delay. A nay vote will not impose an 18-month delay. Nancy?
Nay.
Cheryl?
Nay.
Jack?
Nay.
Nay.
Bob? Nay. All right.
I move that in accordance with Section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historical Commission determines that the partial demolition of the building located at 102 Bridge Street, Osterville, is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
And second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Nancy. An aye vote determines that the partial demolition of the single-family structure is not detrimental and no demolition delay will be imposed. Nancy?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Bob? Aye. John, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip you the last time.
It's okay.
Right, I beg your pardon.
My vote is the same as everybody else's.
Okay, well, there we have it then.
Problem,
So that's it, no demolition delay, and thank you very much, appreciate it. And good luck, it's a big project.
Just so you know,
Oh, yeah, did you
Did
sign
you
in?
sign in?
Oh, no, I
Oh,
Doesn't look
thank
like
you,
did.
thank you, Cheryl, good for you.
when you get to FEMA,
Oh, boy.
you go over the bridge onto Little Island, and then through in Little Island to Oyster Harbour. The entire Little Island is in the floodplain. So
I used to live there.
Oh, boy.
It doesn't matter if you're in the middle, you're.
No, it's true. Well, there isn't much high ground on Little Island, let's
No,
face it.
But it's,
Well, there used to be the Coast Guard seasonal station.
That's right,
That was higher up a little bit, yeah.
You look like you
Jimmy,
have a thing.
can you just send me those renderings by email so I can add
the
them
ones that you were
in
showing
with
us
the-
by hand, yeah.
Perfect, thank
They
you.
do help. As I said, we don't technically have jurisdiction about what you do next, but the context that we were trying to understand here is very much helped, as opposed to the original drawings, which showed this naked building up on stilts. That looked a little horrifying for all of us.
she also wants it to look old, so
Good.
she's got flying legs that.
I got it.
Be cottagey-like, so you'll like it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, next hearing, Terry and Thomas Eastman, 880 Main Street, Katuitt, map 035, parcel 081, built 1910. Partial demolition, demolish existing attached garage and rebuild garage with a mudroom pantry addition. And could I have a motion to open a public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second, somewhere?
I'll second it.
All in favor, open a public hearing? Please say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we are in the public hearing. Sir, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming in.
Kerry Grover, I'm a builder in Katuitt, worked on a lot of the old houses there. And this one is, although the house was built in 1911, it was actually built as a wing to an adjacent property that was built probably in the 1800s. And in around, I think, 1958, 57, 58, it was cut off and moved to this piece of property. It's a tiny little house, and at that time, this two-car garage was built on this property, and so that is only goes back to about 58 or 59, and that's what we're looking at, demoing and then adding on to the house to create better living space and a two-car garage with a proper roof.
Just a point of being sure of what I'm looking at. Is the house below it, what does it say, 884? What, you're doing 880?
880,
Yeah.
correct.
Is that the A. Lawrence Lowell house?
Yes. Well, 884 is the Lowell house. So-
Right.
So this is the Lowell house here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And this house is the one we're working on. It was added on to the Lowell house in 1911.
Yeah.
And then moved, right.
Moved over here during 57, 58, and that flat roof two-car garage was built here at that time, and this one also on that time.
And that was owned by, we saved the demolition of the A. Lawrence Lowell house.
Uh-huh.
And if anyone knows, he was A. Lawrence Lowell was the longest-running president of Harvard University. I think it was something like 26 years. Don't quote me on that, but.
Yeah. The house was referred
And
to as
it got
the
divided
place.
up, and we almost lost it, but thank heavens for, at that time, only a 6-month delay.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that house is it owned by the same owners? Because it used to be for a while.
It's owned by the same owner, yeah.
Yeah,
Terry
good.
Eastman owns
The-
it.
oh, yes, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So she lives, this is her summer house. This is, again, the wing that was taken off of the other house. And it's in rough shape, and it's pretty dysfunctional in terms of how everything works. I mean, all of the plumbing, electric, heating. This would be on the house. We'll be, refurbishing all of that. But the main, all the demolition is involved with taking off the garage and then replacing that. There'll be a porch that's going around the water side that's proposed for there, but there's no demolition on that.
Well, technically, there is for us because you're demolishing a wall, but that's not something bad.
Yeah, I don't think there would be on the front side where the porch is, because these are existing walls. So we would just be adding this on the porch. So yes, there's demolition of a wall that's here
Yeah.
between the existing garage and the house, and that's new living
Yeah.
space there, yeah. But I think the aesthetic of that is there's not a lot of great architectural imagination in terms of
Really?
what happened when the garages were done on there.
We're shocked.
And if you look at the proposed elevations, I think it's an improvement.
Yeah, it is.
One thing I did want to share, at the time we did this, the final decision was not made on the window configuration, and I don't know if you want to pass that on, but we were exploring the idea of doing 2/2 instead of 6/6. It's just kind of busy, and where it does take advantage of the views, I think 2/2 is more attractive and very common in a lot of the old houses in Katuitt.
Would you change them all to that so they
I
match?
would, yeah.
All right, just wanted to ask since they're all 6/6 in this.
Do you want to change them to 2/6?
I think it's a serious consideration at this point. It kind of came up, with the owner and the architect after these drawings had been submitted, but I just wanted to bring that up as a potential
You also
change.
sometimes see 6/1 for this period,
Right,
but
right.
that doesn't accomplish the
Right.
see-through, the
Yeah.
pretty view thing as well.
I don't know if anybody wants to look at it, and if I know you're under time constraints today, but this was an album that the previous owners who did the change in the 50s made of the operation. It's really pretty interesting. One thing that's most noticeable is the trees and the lack thereof in that whole area. But there's a great series of photos that kind of document the cutting off of this wing and the moving it over. And there's a great picture of the Lawrence House, which you'll love to see. Because what's so cool is that entry over it, which is, I'd never seen it before, but it's also on the house that was Sally Hinkle's. It was also a Lowell house in Katuitt, right by
Well,
Ropes Beach.
that was the Lowell, yeah,
Right, that
she
was
bought
yeah,
the
yeah,
A. Lawrence Lowell
right.
house.
So
yeah.
that house still has intact the same entry over the main entry of that house.
So that house is still owned by the Eastmans?
Yes,
That's good.
yeah, it's just Terry. Her husband had
Yeah.
passed, it was just Terry who owns it. And
I mean, Mr. Eastman, who died soon after saving the house, it's nice to know that the rest of the family still feels the way he
yeah, they do. And I've been in, actually, my daughter was married on that property during COVID. I've done a lot of work for Terry over the years, and it was a spectacular property. And we've become fairly good friends, and she offered it to host a wedding there for my daughter, which was spectacular. It's behind the big house, and I've been all through that house. The bones of it are still fine, and it could still be saved if the will was there.
Is this old tree still there?
I don't think that is, no.
Erica, could you pull up the front elevation that shows the proposed?
The water side elevation? or
No,
the-
actually, no, I shouldn't call it the front then, should I? No, this is what I was
Right,
referring
yeah.
to. What I was going to ask is, before getting up and doing this, is this all one plane or is there a step?
No,
back
there's
here?
a step there, it steps back, yeah.
Okay, so it's not a flat surface. I was
Yeah.
thinking about the effective
No,
massing.
This one's here, just to let you know. Did you get to see the chair?
I have to say, this is so nice, and I don't think I've ever seen somebody bring in.
Yeah, I agree.
Quite often they're not available, that's because people who have owned the house before take.
Yeah, I
Take 'em
think it was
with,
so
I know.
interesting when I came
I'm
across
guilty of
that,
that
and
myself
I asked if
once
I
in a
could borrow it to bring it in. But,
Well, commissioners, do you have any other questions or thoughts?
I think it's good.
So I don't
Would we
believe
be
have any-
allowed to use a phone camera and just take a couple pictures, or
yeah, I'm fine with that.
maybe I
I'm sure-
shouldn't, because maybe if we could have the owner's email or something.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'll ask Terry about that, and I could take some pictures and then send them to you.
And you
But
could do it
that
to
one
her.
particularly of the old house is just great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice shot.
And the two women who lived there, Sally and what was the other one's name?
Ellen.
They were incredible pioneers of the Cape in the 50s and 60s.
Helen McClellan that lived in there?
Yeah, it was also, yeah, they were also rampant real estate developers, I have to point
Yeah,
out, which
that's
is
true.
okay, but just to put it all in context.
Helped start a radio, one of them
Yeah.
helped start a radio station.
Yeah, they were both characters,
Oh,
too.
that would be really nice to have a picture of that. for
Yeah,
our
I'll
files.
ask Terry about that, and then I can take some and forward
Okay.
them. Like Erica, I can send them to you.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, yeah, wow.
There are too many people here for public comment.
No, I don't think so either. Was there any comment from the public
No.
written in or anything of that sort? All right, could we have a motion to close the public hearing then, please?
Yes, so moved.
And second? Thank you very much. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. We're ready for the motions, I believe, unless you have anything else to say.
Oh, anyone else have anything?
I think we're good.
All right, Easton, Terry, Thomas and Terry, 880 Main Street, Katuitt, map 035, parcel 081, built 1910. Partial demolition attached garage into rebuilt garage with a mudroom and pantry addition, almost like the previous one. I move that after review and consideration.
Point of order,
Yes.
real quick. Did we want to add in the two, with the 2 over 2
Oh,
windows?
thank you, both of you. Good for you. I didn't catch that.
Do you know what you want yet? The 2 over 2?
No, there's not been a final
So do
decision.
we have just two options?
Yes, we have 2 options.
2 over 2
If you're good with that, and I'll submit the final drawings within the next couple of weeks.
So 2 over 2, and what's the other option?
6
6
over
over 6.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Make sure the commission's good with either choice as we vote. Is that the best way to put that?
Go for that.
So
Okay.
I got to the motion that the windows will be either 2 over 2 or 6 over 6. The applicant will get back to us to let us know which that is going to be, and that will be throughout, not just front or back.
Correct.
So I move that after review and consideration of public testimony, the application, associated materials, the significant building at 880 Main Street, Cotuit is a partially preserved and significant building.
Second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, an aye vote will impose an 18-month delay. A nay vote will not impose an 18-month delay. Nancy?
Nay.
Cheryl?
Nay. I think it's getting old.
Jack?
Nay.
Barbara?
Nay.
Robert? Nay. John?
Nay.
Thank you. All right.
All right.
Second motion.
I move that in accordance with Section 112-3F, the Barnstable Historical Commission determines that the partial demolition of the building located at 880 Main Street, Cotuit, is not detrimental to the historical, cultural, and architectural heritage or resources of the town.
And a second, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jack. An aye vote determines that the partial demolition of the single-family structure is not detrimental. No demolition delay will be imposed. Nancy?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Robert? Aye. John?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We're good.
All right, great.
Appreciate it.
so
Thank you,
much.
sir.
Appreciate your time.
Erica?
All righty.
Just a reminder, I have to leave at 5.
We're doing pretty well, all things considered. I don't usually have
You'll
a,
be done before 5:45.
I don't usually have a reputation for getting out early, so.
I put a little thing on, I think, 4 of them.
The HSBC, our longest
make sure.
meeting.
Yeah, and I'm Nancy
was
Shoemaker.
yeah.
Could tell the
6 hours, and the
Eastman,
shortest
I mean,
was like 4
It was
minutes.
how many hours?
It was 5 3/4 hours.
Oh,
I
my
believe.
God.
Yeah, and
I know
then shortest was about 4 or 5
Now, a
minutes.
council marathon, you know, to put it in context, if that's the right word.
It is
I'll give the
almost
story to
5 o'clock. Our next,
Erica to tell you.
because I know you said you had to get going at 5.
Yeah.
Our next order of business is nominations for clerk. The only thing I wanted to offer up as well is that if no one wants to
Nancy, just one quick sec, sorry.
go for
Oh, and did you
clerk.
sign in?
I did, yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I didn't mean to cut you off, we just had to finish a piece of business before Cheryl
That-
disappears.
if everyone wants to work together or send me edits during like the week once it's posted on Laserfiche. We could do that with, making amendments to the minutes with anything that is significant that needs to be changed.
We did that on Human Services Committee for a while, so, until we got a clerk.
You did it as a group project? Okay.
Well, if
Or
there
did you
were
do
any
it
amendments-
individually rotating through the group, or those are kind of the two
Did that, and also
alternatives?
Cynthia Lovell was doing them there for a while.
Yeah.
But, we would send any edits in. It's a workable solution.
Yeah, because I can do them, post them, and then anybody who has any edits can send them to me.
Yeah.
For the most part, for like motions during approvals, the only things I ask that, be added in is that if there's any significant changes, like if I place somebody as seconding the motion wrong or that type of thing, or if I have the vote wrong, I'd like to add that in as amendments to the motions, but otherwise just as submitted with maybe some grammatical corrections type of thing.
So if nobody has a yearning desire to be clerk, I'm going to suggest that I make a motion that we go in accordance with that. Anyone?
Somebody want to second that idea?
Yeah, so make a motion that we follow through with that idea, that we, with an option to change it if somebody wants to take over the
Sure.
role of clerk, for which Marilyn did a spectacular job.
She sure did. She had a very excellent aptitude for doing that, too, which is one of the reasons she did it so long and did it so well, and I'm guessing we're all shrinking away from it partly for that reason as well.
I'll second your motion.
Seconded. We're
Thank
on a
you.
roll tonight.
Can we just do a simple all in
Yep.
favor of? All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nope.
Awesome. And I don't think Barbara would have disagreed. I don't feel too guilty doing that and making sure we got it done before you have to boogie. Cheryl?
Apologies that I have to leave, but it looks like I haven't left you with anything I had to
No,
say.
you've done good things. I appreciate it very much. So you missed a vote. We'll tell you what it was. It was no big deal. It's about clerk. And
We decided to make you clerk.
No, we didn't. No, but that's so tempting to want to pull that joke on people every time. No, we decided that we will have draft minutes published with Laserfiche by Erica for us to look at and offer any edits to and send the edits to her. And they will be brought to us to approve at the next subsequent meeting.
Okay.
And if there's anything substantive that requires a full amendment, then that's what it will require. Like if she has a mistake about who seconded something or something that is a function of a matter of process, we have to be careful of.
Okay.
So, excuse me for bowing out. I have another, but
I hope not 6-hour meeting or something, but
Oh, no.
here you go.
Hour at the most.
All right. Thank you, Cheryl.
Have a good week.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Upcoming historical events open to the public. Anybody have anything they want to share with us?
Actually don't.
I actually don't either. I feel a little guilty saying that. I usually try and look them up before I come to this meeting, and I didn't think to do that today. Katuitt Form Bs, I don't think there are new updates for that, but I know,
I did hear back from the MHC. They have received them.
Okay.
They will let me know
No
in the
comment
upcoming
per
weeks.
se
No
from them yet.
comment,
That's
yeah,
okay.
but I have at least heard back.
that's a step in the right direction. And I just want to add, whenever we do have our training session, if it's appropriate either then or for some future meeting, I would think one of the most efficient ways to reel Phil Odens back in with some of his thoughts and his hard work would be to see if he'd like to sit down and just do a 10-minute video for us instead of hauling him into a meeting. Or you could do it
Yep.
in a Zoom setting with us as a group. I don't know what would be most efficient, but I know he's chafing at the bit to do that. I think he's worn off the edges of feeling dismayed that, more hasn't been done and they were lost. And we all understand the circumstances of that now. And I think he just wants to make it a constructive information moment.
Yeah, we can work on that, and we can
Okay.
try to set up a time for that.
Great.
That way he can give like a small presentation.
No, I appreciate that, and I know he will too. And it's kind of an all Katuitt thing. He also has a component that involves, Barbara Johnson, the president of the Katuitt Historical Society, and some of the work they're doing that's related to that. So, it's in context, and I really believe in keeping the historical societies in the loop as much as we can do that for their interest and concern in the whole heritage subject. Tracer Artifacts.
Tracer Artifacts, I do not have much of an update. Kate is still working to secure an appraiser on that, and we have been looking into options, and we have reached out to Grace Rogers as well, just trying to feel out what the process is going to fully look like. So not too much of a update on that, unfortunately, but we are still working on it.
I still have a question about it that's probably an annoying question, but I want to ask it anyway, just to put it out there, and to wonder how absolutely essential an appraisal is of these things, since they're not actually town property. They're in town custody. They've been in town custody for over 20 years. They haven't been cared for properly in the 20 years, so it's not about protecting them for the sake of their insured value. Ultimately, we're going to hopefully be participating in some manner of finding a way to distribute them to new owners or holders or custodians for the future who are appropriate geographically, regionally, historically, or something like that. And I see that as the lead objective, not so much the...
That is the lead objective, and
Well,
we're feeling out that process.
Well, I'm
as
just wanting to be
but-
careful we don't
yeah.
actually have the tail wagging the dog again, which is the appraisal,
Yeah.
and the dog is really the distribution.
Yeah.
Okay? It's
Yeah.
a
No,
clumsy
I
way to
fully
say
hear
it, but
you.
I want to be sure
Well
we're
put,
kind of thinking
Bob. I
that
think
way if we
we
can.
all agree
I
with
think
you.
we're all on the same page with
I mean,
that.
it's been
I don't want us
20
to get too
years, so
sidetracked if we can
crazy.
help it.
Been talking about these since I've been on this commission.
We've been talking about these for all of the 20 years I just mentioned, I promise you. It's a tough process, and it's got all sorts of challenges. Training workshop.
I know that Corey and Jim, because Jim had talked with me about it, about potentially setting up an actual training workshop with Sarah Korjeff. So that's what we're kind of
That's a cool idea if
leaning
she could be in the
towards, and hopeful that she will be in line to do that. So that's kind of where we want to go with the training workshop.
Are we thinking we might get it in this calendar year?
I don't know for sure.
Only a couple
I don't
more
know for
meetings,
sure.
is why I'm asking at that point.
There's only a couple more
Putting
meetings.
pressure on you.
So.
Talking about it several months ago.
Well, I know, but it's, your questions are great. I had a list of questions. It kind of grows a little bit. Corey's already answered some of them directly in a couple of cases and indirectly because I still have to do my reading homework. But which leads me to the point I was going to make is when we do choose a date for it, there'll be some lead time. I want to suggest that we circulate or recirculate a few of the documents that you shared with me. There might be a couple of others for each of the commissioners to read before the training workshop, so that it'll just be a little more context sensitive and we'll be all up to speed with the same thing. And we may have different questions or we may have fewer questions as a result of that. And I think it all works well in everybody's direction if we can figure that out. Okay.
Just as a reminder for everyone, for the next meeting date, we will be back to Zoom
Yeah.
meetings for the wintertime.
I was going to ask all about that, but you took the wind right out of me sails.
You migrate westward and things like that, do you not still, or is that part of the program? Yeah.
Have
And
we heard going forward after March what the status will be?
No, typically, and this is what happened the last time when it came before the state, they decided in March. So I probably won't have an update on whether or not remote will still be able to go forward at that point, or if we're going to be strictly in person or not. So I will keep you guys updated as much as I can during that time period.
Are there entities at the state level who make that decision, who could be approached with opinions from members of the public to influence the outcome of their decision?
I'm sure there are. I will try to get back to
Because
you
I
on
think
that.
I mean, there's a lot to be said for in-person meetings, but I want to, my soapbox is about hybrid meetings. I just really think it's important to try and go that route to keep as many people physically or hypothetically virtually in the room as possible.
Okay.
And we'll see where that goes. Okay. Do we have any other business that we may not have foreseen but should talk about?
I got a question that probably needs to be answered sometime down the road. In my instance, in Craigville Village, there's 90 antique homes there.
Yeah.
And for as long as I've been involved in Craigville, I know everybody just about. And the case where I had to recuse myself,
Yes.
is it really necessary that I recuse myself because I just know people?
So this is a good question. So I wrestled with that today, too, as you might have gathered from my little preamble earlier. And I discussed it on the phone with Erica. I had been wrestling with it on my own anyway. So I knew, not well, I'm acquainted with the applicants in both of the cases in Osterville.
That's in my
Okay.
case, too.
And in one case, I knew the former owners of one of those properties for over 50 years. So I know the place, the property. And initially, I just didn't think it would be appropriate for me solo to be making the initial determination about whether they were significant enough to be brought in for a hearing. And so Nancy kindly, accepted the challenge and did that part for me. And at first, I was thinking, well, that would mean automatically I shouldn't participate in the hearings as well. And then I realized that's not necessarily the case. And I don't believe it is. I'm more than willing to hear other people's opinion on that. But
It's your cousin who owns the house, that's
well, that's a
different.
whole different thing. Or if it's next door to your personal
Yeah, true.
property, you
Yeah.
have a stake in it.
Yeah.
And
Further
so the
protection.
clause in the
The conflict of interest.
thank you, the conflict of interest document from the state, which I reread today, that really is pertinent is the one about appearances of a conflict and whether you can, in good faith, participate without bias and perform good judgment without undue influence. And I felt absolutely that I could, so I don't have a problem with that. It also requires for appointed boards and commissions that that you declare that that's the case in writing, which I did by email with Erica today to make sure there's a written record of it and it goes with the file for those two applications, just to cover the bases. I'm not sure if that's a full answer for you, but it's the exercise I went through today. And to Erica's credit, she said, there's an attorney of the day or whoever you can reach.
You can
up
reach out to the attorney of the day.
at the state level
state
and
level.
ask them the question you have more particularly. And I guess we'd all be more comfortable.
Yeah.
And I probably should do the same in the future if I have it come up. I promise you it would be a training day or, training exercise day question, which is kind of how you brought it up today, to wonder out loud whether there are circumstances like those that need to preclude us from participating or whether we can follow the kind of procedure that I did today and still be in the game. Otherwise, we're apt to run short of a quorum, or we're going to miss the opportunity to have full participation by the commission, which is one of the objectives every time we have a meeting.
Were
Well,
you
yeah.
told you had to? Were you told you had to, or no? You just
No, it
made
just so
that up?
happened that Quirk's house, my grandfather built it. So I have a family connection into that building. And I just thought maybe I'll just bail on that one. But something that's of concern to me in Craigville is that the National Register took over part of Craigville Village and made the whole thing part of and there are people that are remodeling those structures without coming in front of us.
Wow.
And the thing that bothers me about it is they're owned by Craigville itself, and so they're a 501c3, and their attitude is, we don't need your permission. But if they're part of the National Historic Register, I'd still think that they have to respect the antiquity of the building and not freelance without coming in front of us.
And the local requirements, I don't.
Yeah, I could only offer an unprofessional, semi-professional, not legal opinion. My personal opinion would be that the fact they're 501c3 does not exempt them from any jurisdictional concerns whatsoever.
I feel exactly the same way.
And that if they are remodeling in a way that is a partial demolition, that alters the exterior of a significant building, and if it's a contributing building in a National Register district, it is significant automatically, then they should be coming before us. And so normally our trigger is a building permit request, and the building commissioner's been pretty good about that. So if there's a missing link, one might wonder if they're pulling permits.
Last year, it's got a National Register sticker on the front of it, and they replaced all the windows with storefront. They had no business doing that.
Well, maybe.
And they've claimed it to 501c3.
So maybe we should suspend this conversation for the moment, because all we're going to do now is sort of speculate, and it's about a specific entity, and I don't want to be unfair to them or anything. And this is, and we're still on recorded public time
I
here,
would
so.
recommend,
Building department.
I would recommend reaching out to building
Yes.
and talking with building about it, because they are enforcement.
Yeah, they would be enforcement for us even if we found fault with some situation. We would ask them to go and investigate it, I believe. And therefore, if we also think that any entity that should be applying for a building permit and therefore being referred to us because it's a building in a National Register district and is significant in that way, or older than 75 years in any case, would normally come to us, but it's not, then somehow at the building department, that's where something's not happening. It may be that they're not applying for permits, or it may be that they are. I just don't know. And it's not fair for me to speculate about that at all.
Yeah, I know, I just brought it up. 'Cause
Yeah, no, I get it.
I'm watching it.
Sure, sure.
And I'd like to know if you have rights under the 501c3 that we're not aware of.
Not that I'm aware of. So I could give you an example in the Old Kings Highway 35 years ago when I lived there the first time. Classic examples of, I won't say mischief, but marginal behaviors with respect to regulations or going before Old Kings Highway for hearings was revolved around the various churches along Route 6A. And they kind of felt that they had one boss and he was in the firmament, and they didn't want to pay much attention to Old Kings Highway. Well, it wrestled back and forth. It depended on who was on the Old Kings Highway Committee, whether they were vigilant and caring about that. Depended a little on which church and who was the rector, pastor, who was head of the vestry, whether they felt, I mean, it was more personal choices being made than regulatory alterations, but it was wrong. It was not correct. They were supposed to go before Old Kings Highway if they wanted to put in skylights or if they wanted to tear down a church tower or, any of that kind of thing. So that's a 501c3. They should have been doing that.
So should Jack contact the building department, or would you, Erica, or what?
I would recommend Jack
Jack do
because
it.
you know exactly which buildings and what addresses.
I think that's
So please
appropriate.
reach out to building, and they'll open a compliance check on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's more than fair for you to bring it up here, and I appreciate that, but I don't think we are in a position to take any action unless something's brought to us in a more formal fashion, and I don't know what we would do anyway.
We don't take action if we're
Yeah.
not.
Got it.
We're not
Aware of it.
privy
right.
to the fact that they're trying to get a permit.
Yeah,
Then if they try to get a permit, they'll just get told you have to
Well,
go
that's my-
before the commission.
that would be my theory as well.
Yeah, that'd be a much more comfortable situation.
So the building department does a compliance check?
Yep. So they are the enforcement, so they have a compliance manager for zoning issues, Old Kings Highway, HHDC, signs, anything like that, they have a compliance manager for. And most times the building inspectors will go out, they'll take photos, or they'll address the complaint.
It's good to know that's in place.
Yes.
Okay. I don't think we have anything else. We've made good time. I would accept a motion to adjourn if that's
I
appropriate.
will make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Unless
We
you're
are
here all
adjourned.
night, we're off.
I don't expect I ever hear somebody opposed to the motion to adjourn, but you never can tell.